A father's desperate cries once filled television screens across California. "It's just a baby. Please give our son back." His words painted the picture of a terrified parent pleading for his child's safe return. But weeks later, that same father sat inside a jail cell, shackled, finally admitting he was the one who killed baby Emanuel. This isn't just another true crime story. It's a case that has haunted people everywhere because at its core, it isn't about strangers, abductions, or chance. It's about betrayal, parents, the very people meant to protect, hiding the darkest truth. Today, we revisit the tragic case of 7-month-old Emanuel Haro, uncovering what really happened behind closed doors and why the lies of his parents shook a community to its core. Just 3 weeks before the nightmare began, Emanuel was alive and thriving. At only 7 months old, he was entering that magical stage of infancy, smiling, giggling, learning to sit up, and reaching out with his tiny fingers. His laughter filled his home whenever his toddler sister played peekaboo. He lived with his parents, 41-year-old Rebecca Renee Haro and 32-year-old Jake Mitchell Haro, in Cabazon, California, a desert community of about 2,600 people. It was the kind of town where neighbors waved from porches, children biked until the streetlights flickered on, and serious crime was a rarity. No one could imagine the storm that was about to tear through this quiet neighborhood. On August 14, 2025, at exactly 7:47 p.m., a frantic 911 call jolted the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department. Rebecca Haro reported that her baby boy had been kidnapped. Through tears, she told dispatchers she'd been shopping at Big 5 Sporting Goods when a stranger approached her in the parking lot, attacked her, and ripped the child from her arms. "I was going to grab the diaper bag," she said. "Somebody said, 'Hola.' And then I woke up on the ground. Emanuel was gone." The story spread instantly. Local news stations picked it up, social media exploded with missing child flyers, and the entire community joined the desperate search. And then came the father. Jake Haro, choking back emotion in front of TV cameras, pleaded, "Whoever has my son, please bring him back. Don't hurt him. Just keep him safe. Feed him, change him. We just want him home." The Haros' pleas appeared heartfelt. Their voices trembled, their lips quivered. But something felt off. Viewers noticed the tears never truly fell. Their eyes remained strangely dry. Even more disturbing, they kept slipping into past tense when describing Emanuel. He was such a happy baby. He loved playing with his sister. Police noticed too. And the surveillance footage told a story no one expected. When detectives reviewed the Big 5 parking lot cameras, there was no attacker. No masked figure. No struggle. The footage showed Rebecca calmly walking alone to her car. Emanuel was never with her. The supposed kidnapping never happened. By August 22, just 8 days after Rebecca's desperate 911 call, the investigation had taken a dramatic turn. Detectives had gathered enough evidence to prove the kidnapping story was nothing but a lie. Cell phone records, surveillance footage, and timeline inconsistencies painted a picture that Emanuel had never been snatched by a stranger. He was already gone long before the call for help was made. That evening, the quiet desert neighborhood of Cabazon was shaken when law enforcement descended on the Haro residence. Unmarked vehicles slipped into the street, followed closely by patrol cars with flashing lights reflecting off windows. Deputies stepped out in tactical gear, their radios crackling as they positioned themselves around the modest single-story home. Within moments, the property was surrounded. Neighbors peeked nervously through curtains and doorways, stunned by the sudden show of force. The stillness of the neighborhood was broken by sharp knocks on the Haro's door and firm voices announcing the deputies' presence. When Rebecca and Jake emerged, both were quickly handcuffed. Neither resisted. Witnesses later recalled Rebecca appearing pale and bewildered, while Jake kept his eyes fixed on the ground, refusing to meet anyone's gaze. To the people who had seen them just weeks earlier, Rebecca pushing Emanuel in his stroller, Jake chatting casually at the gas station. The sight of them being led away in shackles under suspicion of killing their own baby was almost impossible to believe. The community's disbelief soon gave way to heartbreak and anger. Neighbors gathered in small groups on the sidewalks, some shaking their heads in silence, others speaking to local reporters who had rushed to the scene. One mother of 4, clutching her youngest child, expressed the pain shared by so many parents in the town. "I have kids of my own. To know someone could hurt their child like that, it's disgusting. I can't even imagine it." An older neighbor, who often saw Emanuel playing on the front lawn, whispered through tears, "He was such a beautiful baby. Why would they do this?" Their words echoed the sense of betrayal that now weighed heavily on Cabazon. By nightfall, the once quiet street was lined with flashing lights and television cameras. Yellow crime scene tape stretched across the Haro property as deputies secured the home. Reporters delivered live updates to viewers across California, their voices carrying the breaking news headline, "Parents arrested in death of missing infant." For a town more accustomed to weekend barbecues and desert thunderstorms than violent crime, the transformation of the Haro residence into a crime scene felt surreal. But the most heartbreaking image of that night was not the handcuffed parents or the swarm of deputies, it was the Haro's toddler daughter. Child Protective Services arrived quietly, carrying the little girl out of the home. Too young to understand what was happening, she clutched a blanket as she was placed into the back of a government vehicle. In that single moment, she had lost everything. Her baby brother was gone, and now her parents were gone too. For many watching, this was the cruelest blow of all, a child forced into a future marked by tragedy, her family destroyed by the very people meant to protect it. By the end of the night, the Haro residence was no longer a family home. It was sealed off as a crime scene. Investigators moved through every room, collecting evidence, photographing surfaces, and searching for any clue that might explain what had happened to Emanuel. For the people of Cabazon, the truth settled heavily. The case of a missing baby was no longer a desperate search. It had become a murder investigation. What investigators uncovered in those early days was chilling. Cell phone data proved that neither parent was at Big 5 on the night of the alleged kidnapping. Surveillance from nearby businesses revealed their car movements, contradicting their statements. But the most shocking discovery came from the timeline. The last verifiable sign of Emanuel being alive was on August 5, 9 full days before Rebecca dialed 911. During those 9 days, the Haros carried on as if nothing was wrong. They shopped. They spoke with neighbors. They lived their daily lives, all while their baby was already gone. Inside the Haro home, forensic experts collected digital evidence, phone records, and physical clues that pieced together a story of abuse and deliberate cover-up. On August 24, 2 days after the arrests, investigators launched a desperate search for Emanuel's body. Dozens of search teams and cadaver dogs combed through the harsh Moreno Valley Badlands, guided by none other than his father, Jake, now shackled and dressed in an orange prison jumpsuit. But Jake gave investigators nothing. He showed no emotion, offered no help, and seemed detached from the gravity of the search. Volunteers sweated under the desert sun, praying to bring Emanuel home, while his father stood silently, betraying no concern. Meanwhile, 25 miles away at the Robert Presley Detention Center, Rebecca gave a jailhouse interview. She clung to her story of innocence, refusing to blame Jake or admit any role. Whether it was genuine maternal anguish or a performance to save face, no one could tell. On August 26, Riverside County District Attorney Mike Hestron made a decisive announcement. Both Rebecca and Jake Haro were formally charged with murder under California Penal Code 187, along with filing a false police report. Even without Emanuel's body, prosecutors pushed forward with a rare, no-body homicide case. Thanks to digital forensics, surveillance, and phone data, they were confident the evidence was overwhelming. At a press conference, Hestron declared, "The evidence clearly shows that Emanuel Haro is deceased, and that his parents are responsible." This was not panic. This was not an accident. This was abuse, and ultimately, murder. Each parent was ordered held on $1 million bail. Their toddler daughter was removed from the home and placed into protective custody, left to grow up knowing her parents had destroyed her family. As the case unfolded, whispers began to spread. Reports surfaced that Jake Haro had confessed to a covert officer posing as an inmate, a so-called Perkins operation, admitting responsibility for his son's death. Though the district attorney's office refused to confirm or deny the report, the story ignited outrage on social media. People who had once shared Emanuel's missing posters were now grappling with the reality that his parents had deceived them from the very beginning. And then, within a week of his arrest, Jake broke his silence publicly. While Rebecca maintained her innocence, Jake's own words would forever change the direction of this case. The case of Emanuel Haro will never be remembered as just another story in the endless catalog of true crime tragedies. It stands out as a chilling reminder that the most terrifying dangers are not always lurking outside in dark alleys or shadowy streets. They can be found within the very walls of a home, carried out by the people a child should be safest with. Emanuel never had the chance to take his first steps, to speak his first words, or to grow into the person he was meant to become. His life was stolen before it had even begun. For the neighbors and strangers who once searched desperately for him, taping up missing posters and sharing his photo online, the reality is crushing. They must now live with the knowledge that they were deceived from the very beginning, not by fate, not by an unknown kidnapper, but by the very parents who stood in front of cameras pretending to be broken, all while knowing the truth. Justice will be sought in courtrooms, through charges and verdicts, but even a conviction cannot erase the deep wound left behind. Emanuel's story is now etched into the memory of a community that believed, hoped, and prayed for his safe return. What remains is not just grief, but betrayal that has fractured trust and left scars that will linger long after the trial ends. For Emanuel, there will never be a chance to rewrite his story. For the community, there will always be the haunting question of how two people who were supposed to love him most could choose to take his life instead. And that, perhaps, is the most devastating truth of all.